Happy Halloween, everybody. This is Mark. I'm with Gov Directions, and we're here to start welcome you here today to our Gov School. But I'll do a quick session before everybody headed out for the Halloween festivities, and maybe give you a reason to pop out of the office a little early and use this as an excuse. But let's give everybody just a few minutes to get going, get into the room. Probably have a little bit smaller crowd today, as you might expect. I'll give them just a couple more minutes. And what we're going to do today is talk about really what's next when you actually find the bid. I always get this question. It's like, what do I do now that I found this particular bid, Mark? And I wanted to kind of share with you my thoughts on that. I do have a fun Halloween poll that you can take. It just has one question on there, but I want to know what's your first reaction to a bid when you find it, and you'll help us out here. And we'll just have a little fun with it today. A few more minutes here. Let's start about 2:02. That's what I like to do. And for all of us who show up on time. And this is going to be a recorded version. We're live on YouTube, so it'll be available right after. And you're able to go and view that on your own leisure time today. But I'm going to show you a couple of tricks here using our Google Drive service that you might find to help you in the process of responding to RFPs. Everybody's getting 100 on this quiz. That's good. So we got a good group of organized individuals. I get so many folks calling at the last minute and who are sweating a little bit when they find that nobody seems to be a sweater today. That's good. So we're just a couple more minutes here. So welcome everybody. I'm going to just quickly open my LinkedIn profile. You're welcome to link in with me if you have a LinkedIn, if you're in LinkedIn, and you can read, of course, what folks write about us. If we like to maintain a really good reputation, so it's important that we have strong communication tools with you. But there's a profile there, and you can actually reach out to me. I tend to respond pretty quickly to messaging on there if you ever have an interest in asking a quick question. But I want to welcome you here. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of Gov Directions. Served in this sector since 1998. I've been working with a government in some capacity and contracting with government since 1990s when I really kind of started, and I have won just over 400 contracts in 34
cash on
states.
cash return is the rate of return often used in real estate transactions that
And I would
calculate the cash income earned on a cash
here. I'm going to
invested
put
in
everybody
property.
on mute. It would
This means
help
that
us if you maintain your mute status. It helps with the background for everybody else so they can enjoy your session today. You should come in with the mute, and I will place folks on mute as we go along. But once again, got a little bit of experience, and I want to share some of that knowledge with you. And that's what our goal is of Gov School. We learned early on that it's more than just finding the bid that you're looking for. It's also learning to win it, and what are the tools that are required to do that. And frankly, they're not that difficult. It's just that you've got to, first follow instructions. You can take this poll here. The second thing, I guess, is don't sweat. Third is don't get overwhelmed. And the third, which we're going to talk about today, is to get organized. Okay. And I want to show you some, whenever sort of how to step in there, really attack the RFP or attack the bid when you first find it. I'm a big believer in experiential learning, meaning that, it's learning by doing, and you're going to make mistakes and you're not going to win every bid. That's okay. But you want to, approach it in the right way and learn from those mistakes, or just learn from the process as a whole. I think frequently I talk about some of the studies that have been done in this particular field. And one of those is that, most times when you lose, it really isn't your fault. That, there are actually social and emotional factors that go into play with government contracting. And we know that in the government decision-making process. And so you have elected officials, you have multiple individuals who have different agenda items. And oftentimes things that you do are just really, you can't control that. And you have to understand that. And when you approach a bid, know that there's going to be other factors that come into play. It's not always going to be, a pure data analytical type situation. More and more so these days, I think, but not always. And so as a process of learning, we created Gov School. We just kind of stumbled on it, and now Zoom makes it available to us in YouTube Live. And so we've created hundreds of hours of videos for you to browse through and learn more about how to actually go about winning those contracts. And I just would always point out that it's not easy. Okay, if it's supposed to be a little hard. If it were easy, everyone would do it. Okay, and that's a Tom Hanks quote from A League of Their Own. It's about a group of softball players, so women softball players on a softball team, and they get out there, and in order to be the best, it's about about really getting there, learning the process, and practice. So I really try to drive that home in the work that we do. The purpose today is I'm going to just real quickly, we're going to spend about 30 minutes together. I'll stay here as long as you need today and answer questions, and this is a live session, so I encourage you to ask those questions. Those type questions will be asked and answered at the end, usually after we go off live on YouTube. Right now we are live on YouTube, but please be aware of that for your privacy issues. I'm going to identify the structure real quickly and of an RFP. I'm going to walk you briefly through the key sections and explain why they're important. And then I'm going to actually dive in and use an actual RFP to kind of show you an example of really how to go out there and determine what is next on any RFP. And you can use, I'm going to focus in on one particular industry today, but everything I talk about today, you can apply it to every sector, every business sector. We serve over 220 industries. Some 130,000 plus organizations have registered to use our services. And so we really appreciate your confidence in us. And I'm very thankful for that. And everybody that works with us is thankful as well. And so, when you're looking at a contract and instrument, that's the first thing you have to do when you land a document that you're working with. Understanding that the whole concept of government contracting is based really on the theory of the firm. And it's the understanding that I can't do everything within my organization, so therefore I'm going to contract with others who could potentially help me. You're a subject matter expert. It's going to save me time. It's going to be more productive, and it just makes more business sense to actually do that than to go out and do everything myself. And so in order to do that, they use these instruments to capture your attention, and they want to make sure in the government space that everybody's treated uniformly. And that's important. And so they'll use, first, when they're trying to determine even really if there's a marketplace at all, or trying to understand really what they're asking for, they usually will have a request for information, RFI, or maybe a source of SALT you'll see at the federal level. And those two documents going in to say, hey, is there a small business marketplace for this? Or even is there really a custodial company who could serve me in this remote spot in Alaska, or one that recently was in Upper Wyoming? And if there is, please let us know. We want to know that before we actually issue a document to bid on. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, wait, we want to know everybody who has qualifications to come to and help them. They can actually come to the table and help us even potentially write the RFP that we want to have out there for everybody, an RFQ. Or they would maybe have a closed universe and say, before we bid, we only want to talk to industrial engineers or electrical engineers or some sort of specialty type organization. And so we want to see your qualifications, your credentials beforehand, the RFQ. And then we get into the real pure bidding cycles of an invitation to quote, very informal. I pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, I got a 3,000 square foot building. I need a pest control company. Can you do that? And you give me a quote per square foot. Something straightforward. I'm going to call 3 or 4 companies. Oftentimes I'll go to, the dynamic small business search system and pull those. That's where we learn about our micro purchases typically, and how we earn that business. That is just really off the cuff there, just a quick phone call. But going there, just a quick turnaround and asking for quotes. Invitation to bid, a little bit more formal, but still uniform in nature, in getting those requests for bids on a particular item, specification, very detailed requests that you're going to respond to, and everybody's going to be treated somewhat uniformly, oftentimes driven by a low bid, but a combination of sometimes low bids and your ability to perform and understand what they're asking for. And then finally, what I'd really like to respond to is the request for proposal, the RFP. And whenever we're looking at that, and you might ask, why does he like those? Well, this is where you get to shine. This is where you get to show your knowledge. And I enjoy doing that, trying to kind of, here's how I can help you. You're the expert at a topic. You're going to tell me really what I need to know, a little bit more detail. I kind of generally know what I need, but I'm not quite always sure 100%. So I'm going to issue that RFP and give that back. And so it's important that you understand, and all of these, and I have here just specifically the request for proposal, that they're a solicitation. Okay, in the pure definition, they want you to respond. They want you to treat it as a business relationship. They're trying to procure this here, excuse me, I'm getting asked for recording. This will be recorded live on YouTube, so you can actually go to YouTube and watch it a little bit later. But this here is here always remembering that it's a commodity that they're seeking, a valuable asset. They're trying to get, they want a business proposal back. They want you to take it seriously. Oftentimes, governments have went through an elaborate decision-making process, and it sometimes years in the making before they get to this stage. So everything they tell you, they want you to pay attention to. And so that really drives, that question. The answer to that question is, what's next? Okay, so when you see that RFP, you need to dive into it. First thing you want to do is take a look at the typical parts of that RFP. And
You're on mute.
I'm sorry, I went on mute there. I didn't mean to. I meant to go on video because I was having to get my plug in there. So let me start back there. So every RFP that you have, or any document that they use, is going to have these typical parts. And that is a statement of work, technical specs, schedule, list of deliverables, the contract terms and conditions, format of the proposal. This is where they're going to tell you how they want you to respond, qualifications and experience. They will ask you to tell them more about yourself, have that information really ready to go, a cost breakdown, and evaluation criteria. So when you open up that RFP, that invitation to bid, that request for information, you're going to see these common elements in just about every single document, or it may not be structured exactly the way I have it here, but in general, all of that information there. And you're going to start and really dive in there and look for that information. And just know that whenever you read through there, probably the most important part first is that statement of work. Making sure when you read that paragraph or two paragraphs, generally very concise, that it speaks to you and that it is what you do. And if it's not, then move along. It's a $7.2 trillion marketplace, and there's work there for you. Find something that really fits your company. And that's important when you first. In fact, I always have this one little slide up here I like to throw up there. Just remember that song from Coldplay should be playing in the back of your mind, in the back of your head there. You're the one I wanted to find. If the statement of work doesn't say that to you, really just move along. Then the next thing you really want to dive into is the technical specs, and maybe even combining that with the list of deliverables. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. It should be there. You don't have to have maybe 100% match. A good high degree of match, though. The better the match, of course, the more likely you're probably going to win. And so understand that. And always the schedule, understanding what are the deadlines to get information back to them. What are the deadlines to actually get the work done? This will drive your profit for your organization as you get into it. And then others paying attention to all of them. And also, I'll just, before we leave this slide, making sure you always are keeping in the back of your mind the evaluation criteria. How are they going to measure you? Because if you know that part, then you understand how to win. Okay. And take a look at it, because if they're only going to do 20% on cost and 70% on experience, then spend more time on experience. And then you'll make up that. And so pay attention to what they're telling you. It's just like a test. And so as we get in there, always remember, also, you're going to have a deadline, but work really does expand so as to fill the time available for its completion. It's Parkinson's Law. It's a business law. So if you got 2 weeks, take 2 weeks. Don't get it in, don't read that and then get, ahead of yourself and start sending it in too quick, because there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be addendums. There's going to be changes. Have it ready to go. Oftentimes now they're doing electronic submission, and you usually can do it that morning or the day before. I would always try to do it maybe the day before, just to make sure, unless I'm familiar with the system, so I have time to get to it. But understanding the process and submission can drive the way you actually respond. So if you have to be, hand delivered or overnighted in some way, you got to give yourself time, especially in today's environment where there's delays in our mailing system over and over again we seem to have. So you want to make sure you give yourself enough time. Just quickly, as I step in to this, some tips. Always read the entire proposal. this is business, and it's going to, oftentimes you're going to enter into a contract with them for years in the making. Okay. And so you want to read everything that could potentially be there for you. Take the time to do that. I know some of these things are 20, 40, 50 pages long. It takes a little bit of time to understand it. I have one client that I really like, and meeting with her tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. But she goes through and she itemizes every detail, every question, even on the contracts. And the contracts themselves, of course, are almost always there. And very rarely can you change them, but that is really your profits driven at. Talks about forbearance, how everything's going to be worked out. And so pay attention to it. Itemize the areas that we discussed, understand those. Always set it aside after you do that and think about it. Make sure it really is a good fit. Oftentimes, I'll move forward with our clients to a point where we're getting ready to submit, and then they'll back off. So this really wasn't for us after all. It looked great when we first started, but for this reason or another, it's not. And that's a very wise business decision. And make sure you actually have that possibility of not pursuing it as a part of your process. In fact, and when I talk about the process of manage your bid flow, one of those specifically is a no bid situation. But understand why you didn't choose it, and then that'll help you better go after ones in the future. And then always sit down in one setting when you can and try to complete your proposal, or at least the outline altogether. And I'm going to show you some tools to help you do that. But in order to do that, we're going to dive in and just remember Einstein, the only source of knowledge is experience. So get in there and try some of the things out that I've talked about. So let's just take a look at an RFP. Now, if you come to RFP Delivery, I have picked one out, but I'm going to show you how I found it. Okay. And so you go to RFP Delivery. When you come into your dashboard, we got some great tools for you now. First of all, up at the top here, if you're open to teaming, make sure you set up your image of your company, your logo, and then tie it to an open to team function right here. Okay, this is going to become more important. We're getting excited as we get ready to announce this, but it's going to give you the ability to really spread out using that, sort of the basic concept of allowing, opening messages like we've seen, I think, on LinkedIn and other places. Also note that if you have your UEI tied to your account, which you can do in your settings, that your small business profile is now linked to it. And this is the SBA profile. This is the number one way you get micro purchases. So it's important that you get this set up correctly. If you're not linked properly or you have some questions about it, give us a call. We'll walk you through that. Here we have your capability statement ready to go and the importance of a capability statement. So when you add it to us or you send it to us, we request them from you, then we'll tap it into here. If you don't have one, then we'll show you where you can actually acquire one. But here, tap on this, it'll show you your capability statement. This now is indexed with us to make sure you're reaching the right audience. And then finally, the most newest item that we've recently added is the My Drive service. I'm going to show you how I use that in just a second. But when you add that, you actually quickly get a drive we've set up for you, ready to go. Organization is key to successful procurement. And so as we step into this, I found the bid just a little bit earlier. And then you do this, on the right-hand side, global searches, left-hand side, filters, here, global search. And I think I had strategy. Let me see if that was what I tend to forget very quickly these days, it seems like. There it is. This is the one I found. Came out today. I have an interest in public strategy, and so I have clients in this area. This right here is telling me the states it in. We tell you the due date. We tell you the level of government, and we'll give you a socially share mechanism. So I can actually pop this out and email it to my client and say, hey, there's a public strategy RFP that's available for you today. Let's jump on this one. But we got to November 13th. So we're going to take the time available for its completion and get a good response. But first, I'm going to tell you what's next. I'm going to open up this document. It's going to give me some information, always key, title, state, where it's at on the internet, the due date, the agency, the reference number that they use. If there's a personal contact, we'll give you that. And then, of course, a link to the how to do business with the state of California, in this case here. And then a summary. And if we can add intelligence, we do that here. Always capture that bid. This is a way of capture management, making sure your pipeline of your activities are there for you. And just remember that you can keep that bid in your capture management folder as long as you like, unlike the front system where this one will expire on November 13th. But the first thing you want to do is, besides stopping here, is go to that organization and actually drive into the actual document. This is at the CAUE Procure system. We don't really care where the government actually posts. There there's really about 40 different procurement portals that are out there, you know, the oceans and the planets and the stars and whatever, but we don't really care about that. That just really kind of fragments the marketplace altogether anyway. Okay. And it adds to that fragmentation home rule philosophy. Governments want to manage that locally. We're linking you to wherever the source is. And if you ever have to register anywhere, even here in the state of California, you want to register, it's freely available, and choose the free options. When you do that, everybody can add value though in certain areas. So if they all have great services, feel free to use them as you need, but all have free access to the bids. When you get here, we're going to download that event package. Okay. Click on that. It'll pop up almost everywhere now, allow you to download. Sometimes they want you to register. And the primary reason is when you download, this will give you a quick note, and they'll be able to reach out to you and let you know when that bid is actually amended or something. Bid opens up. And so now we figure out really kind of what's next. I'm going to take a look at the bid, and potentially I'm going to open up maybe even 2 windows, but I'm going to quickly go through and take a look at that scope of work, just like I talked about. Okay. And in this case here, it's a good fit. Okay. And I look through here, and this is something I'm definitely interested in. Okay. So if that's the case, then I'm going to go into, you know, potentially, if you have your drive set up, I'm going to go in and at my homepage on my dashboard, or I'm going to create my own drive. This is not something that's so difficult. Show you how to do that. We pop into the drive and we set up a folder. It's organized. In our folder that we set up for you, there's templates, videos, and learning that we help you with. There's a Dropbox where you can store your details, keep everything organized. But the RFP process is what we really trying to focus in on. Stepping in, paying attention to those RFP components, keeping my information organized. And we actually, I'll show you this, organize them in really 6 different areas. And this becomes very important if you're using generative type technology and learning technology to actually draft your RFPs. And so using the information in a clear way, a clear manner, organized way, makes those responses better. You're teaching that system to do that in learning prompts. Okay, keep that organization. This is the primary areas you find all RFPs that you will be asked for. Having it ready to go is critical. Your RFPs of interest here, and once you're working, I have 4 stages. I told you about the no bid stage. I'm getting most of mine to the win stage because I focus in on the ones that I want to win, want to work with, and that's important that you go after, you know, really pinpoint. I'm a big believer in that. Your active stage, I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna keep my bids active. I'm gonna give it, you know, really kind of the name of the agency and then a due date, you know, in a form. So in this case here, it's going to be a new folder, and for this one in California, okay, I'm just going to put California, make it easy, but I would put the name of the agency, and it was due, I believe, November 13th. I'm going to keep that right, always changing that if there's an addendum, keeping that front and center, because, you know, time is important, and sometimes you'll miss things if you don't watch out for the time. Okay, start here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new folder. First of all, I'm going to drag in the documents that I have, because just like today, I was working on an RFP for a client in the federal level. The system's not retrieving the RFPs. So if I've got the RFP or the document available, then I'm going to go ahead and just potentially save it on my own system. So if I ever have to go back and pull it, I'm not depending on the state of California system or somebody else's. Okay, so I'm here, open that up again, taking my document, dragging it over, and then I have it there for future references. Okay, and in this particular case here, what I want to do is go ahead and start. And I'm just going to dive right into it. Okay, here we are, found a bid, and 20 minutes, 15 minutes later, we're already writing a response. Okay, I'm going to start a document and say response, and then I'm going to call it after that RFP number. Okay, and I don't have it right here in front of me, but I'll make sure I get it right. Okay, and then I'm going to go in and put the due date right here, and I'm going to start. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remember and tell myself up front clear, how am I going to submit it? Is it going to be E? Solicitation, you know, like electronic means, or is it going to be hand delivered? Okay. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create, actually, I guess that's the third thing. I'm going to create a table. Okay. And I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to use free tools Google provides to us. You know, oh, that's my drive. I don't want to drive. Insert table. I'm going to give myself 4 squares. Okay. I'm going to start here on the side status, and this side, I'm going to make a action item list. Okay. You can call it what you want to, keep it consistent. Okay. Okay. And then on my status, I'm going to use another free tool right here, insert the project management tool, drop down. Okay. Project status, and then start listing my items. Okay. I'm going to go back to that document. In fact, in this case here, I'm actually going to open it up in just a desktop Adobe. It's a little easier for me to use. So I'm going to share that with you right here. So I'll be working back and forth within 2 windows. Okay. And so whenever I do that, I step over to the document. Maybe I open it up on the other side. Let's see here. I got so many documents open now. Okay, here we go. Making sure everybody sees the, here, just double check. Yes, okay. And we'll take a look at it. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna is I'm gonna look for that submission. Okay, here's my scope of work and process. Okay, my minimum quals. And here's the timeline, that schedule that we talked about. Okay. And going in, here's how it's going to be submitted. Okay. So I'm going to copy that, put it over here, and I'm going to keep that. This is one of the most important. You don't want to run out of time. Okay. So the good news is this one here is going to be submitted by email. Good. So that's going to give me a whole another couple of days as I work this. And so as I go into it, next, I'm going to go start looking through the document at various items that I have to do. Okay. And so here, I'm going to step back again now. So I'm going to start looking at those, the deliverables, the specifications, other items, in the scope. Really, what are they telling me in that, how should I be responding? The first thing on the scope is going to tell me really what I got to do. And so the next step when I get into it is really what I have to meet. What do I have to satisfy? What am I have to talk about in this document? Well, the first thing is I've got to have some minimum experience. Okay. So I'm going to drop that in. And in my document, I'm going to have to tell this organization about my experience. Okay. And as I do that, and I start drafting my document, okay, I'm going to go back here and then I'm going to keep my progress until I feel like I've got this part completed. Okay. And I'm not going to do, I'm not going to get overly complicated with reformatting it, everything. I'm just going to copy over and make sure that I cover each of these items. And so what we're doing at this point is we're taking a complex document and we're making it, workable. Okay, so we're not going to be intimidated by these items. And I'm going to find solutions to each of them. I'm not overwhelmed anymore. I've already got to start and how I'm going to do this. Okay, and this is the primary areas. And not only that, but they're also telling me my skill sets that I have to satisfy. And so I'm going to list those as well. Okay, and putting those in there just to make sure I cover each of those in the details. And in this case here, now I'm going to actually have to make sure that ask if I got any questions, then I'm going to have to get them back. So I'm going to start peppering in my potentially. Let me go back here. The good thing about this is if you make a mistake, undo it. If you ever, you also have various versions. If you ever step back, you accidentally delete something, Google's already saved it all for you. Remember the old days, you'd be doing all this work and then all of a sudden you'd lose everything. Well, we don't want to have that happen. Okay, in this case here, I want to add insert table. See format table. I'm going to add me a row. Okay, insert row above, and then I'm going to put on here about the questions due. So if I have any questions, I'll know that when I have to get those done. I might even just use this area to ask my questions. Okay, question 1, so I could keep them in order as I go forward, so that I can just drop them into an email or whatever format that they're asking for to get that to them. So keeping it organized, keeping everything front and center as I go about doing that. And I'm going to give us answers back on November 7th. Right away, I'm going to use this date right here as really my next big move on this project. I'm not going to really write a lot or do a lot. I might start getting a summary there, but I'm not going to do a lot until I get the answers to questions. Oftentimes you'll find that there might be even an extension of time to once the questions are released. So I want to use that as a gauge. Now, I may go ahead and get my outline in place and everything, but I'm not going to have my proposal submitted until the questions are answered. Okay, so here next, they're giving us the format. Okay, it's not called format of proposal, but it's the content. Okay, so the first thing they want is form itself. They want me to do the certification sheet. Okay, And now I'm gonna, at this point, I'm probably going to start parsing out, get through here, the actual documents themselves. Okay. And so when I have a document that's ready to go, okay, I can come in this particular case here. I might go, it's attachment 1. I might go ahead and just go look, see where attachment 1's at. Okay. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to export it. Here it is. I'm going to use a handy tool. Okay. Over here to the right hand side. I can get to it. Too many windows. Okay. And then I'm going to extract that document. Okay. Maybe 2 pages. Okay. 2 pages. Go ahead and just extract it. Okay. Set it up. Okay. And then I'm going to save it. Attachment 1. And I'm going to move it into my folder. I'm going to do this as I go along because keeping everything organized is once again very important. Okay. And I can't tell you how important that part is. Okay. Here we go. Want to drag it in. Oop, I don't want to do that one. But let's save it. There it goes. Make sure you don't go over. And I do see questions starting to pop up, and I'll stop here in just a second, answer some questions. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this document. Okay. And I'm going to share it. We'll get the link. Copy the link. Go back into my response. Drop it in here. Okay. And it's going to allow me to, very easily tag it so that I know where to go to get that information. Okay. And so that's important that we do that. And I got a question about the actual recording. Yes, this is recorded live on YouTube. It will be available immediately after the session. And they also, I'm getting a question about the slides. Yes, I have those available for folks. And then second, okay, I'm gonna go back in here and keep looking at the details. I'm gonna start closing out some of these windows. I've got too many of them. So that I got the next item. It's going to be attachment 2, most likely. But I'm not going to do that just today. I'm going to go back up to my screen here in order to pull that down. Okay. And so I'm going to go through every item that they have. Okay. Qualification. Listen, oftentimes I'll come in, and if there's a big section that has like 4 or 5 particular items that I'm looking for, in this case here, they have 2. I'm going to leave it on the same one, but I might break this down into subsections. And so I'd go into it and say, okay, actually what I'm going to do here is create a merge tool format. Let's see. Table, merge cells. Okay, in this section, okay, I'm going to call it proposer qualifications. Okay, and then I'm going to give myself 2 areas I have to make sure I meet. Okay, because the reason why I'm doing this, just as an example, I might have somebody else in a collaborative way helping me. And so I want them to send their resumes. And that way I can keep that section separate. And then I can know when I completed it separate. Okay. And then we go back into the next section. Keeping them separate. Okay. And this will keep me organized as I go along. And I'm going to do that breakdown for every single item that they have. Okay. And then the last part I'm going to do on every single bid, I'm going to go in here specifically, and I'm going to go and start a section, table, merge, cells, evaluation. And then I'm going to actually change my measures. Okay. And I'm going to call this evaluation. And I'm going to go here potentially and say not started, not measured. No. Meets exceeds. Okay, maybe drop that. I only need 3 of these. I'm gonna give myself a big old green, because that's money when you see. And meet, maybe a blue, you're satisfied. Okay. And then not measure, maybe just to keep it correct. Okay. And then I'm gonna save that. So we give me an option to use it for all of them. I'm gonna say just this instance. Okay. And then it'll go, and it'll do that going forward. And then I'm gonna go back to that form of that has told me everything that they want me to do and how they're going to measure me. Okay. Evaluation. How well does this proposal narrative describe? Okay. It's important because you can get very quickly. And I said, one of the items I gave you as one of the options is, or you can get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't get confused. You don't have to give them everything, including the kitchen sink. Here's what they're going to measure you on. Okay. Focus on what they measure you on. That's how they can't measure you on anything unless they've told you. Okay. It's a uniform environment, and it's important that you understand that in the process. Okay. And so we don't want to confuse them with a lot of other items that you don't even get measured on. Okay. And so I like to point that out always. And so in this case here, when we're looking at it, okay, it's still getting people coming in the room. I like to point out, okay, so here, budget is 20%. Okay. A lot of people focus so much on the money side, and that's oftentimes definitely not how to win in this one. What they really want you to do is really talk about your experience. And not only that, but with an understanding of what they're looking for. Okay. That's 15 give me points. You just got to pay attention. And believe me, when we break down a document the way I just broke that down, you're going to get those 15 points. Your experience, that's your sales. Okay. And I get and somebody's going to ask me in just a minute, I guarantee you, I don't have a lot of experience. What do I do? Well, listen, you do have experience. You started your own company. You're here today. You've got to just learn to sell yourself. I used to use a quote by Alexander Haig, who basically said, don't let anybody else define your capabilities. You have to define your capabilities. Because if they do, then they're not going to always give you the best review, guarantee you. But you can. You always do. Then I heard, of course, there's Vice President Harris. She always says now, define yourself. Don't let anybody else. I think she said her mother taught her that. Don't let anybody else define you. And that's important. So you need to sit down. The first thing you do when you start government contracting is define yourself. Make sure that capability statement sells you and you have it ready to go. And you talk about the great things that you have. No, you certainly may not have 20 contracts or have 400 contracts under my belt. So understand where you're at. And so you have to make up those points. I can come in, if I bid with that kind of experience, I can get those points very quickly. Now you might be able to get 35 of those points if you're brand new, or 30. So then you're going to have to make up the points here. And so I'm not going to go in there and give them a low cost proposal ever. I'm always, when I'm bidding at 75 percentile, I'm going to bid but higher than 3/4 of everybody who bids against me. Okay. And it's important that I'm able to do that because I've got the experience and I fully understand it. When I first started, though, I was in the bottom quartile and I always came in low. And I had to do that because I didn't have the experience. So I had to make up those points. But when you focus, all your answers should drive around these. And then you need to come back and evaluate yourself. And so the last thing you do as you get prepared what's next function is then to come back and pay attention to the items that we've started here. Okay. And then as you accomplish them, turn them to green. Okay. And when you get all green, okay, step back and then you're going to measure yourself. Okay. And on the measurement, we want you getting all green too. Okay. And if you need to, pull somebody in from the office, pull somebody in from the family, let them read your proposal, let them read your response, let them measure you. Okay. Because at the end of the day, there is no school of scientific measurement on this side of when you have the social and the emotional factors that go into play. So you're most likely going to measure yourself the same way a pool of government officials would actually measure you, as long as you follow these instructions. And you want to get that exceeds when you do that. Okay. And have that when you get all green, we're going to use that as a gauge to when you actually go to submission. In this case here, we got until November the 13th that morning. It's 5 p.m. But I think it was Pacific time. So I got almost a whole nother day there. to get to that point. And you're going to use all that time available for its completion. And with that, I want to thank you for coming today. For those of you who on YouTube, you can go to YouTube Live after the session and get a copy of it. But I'd like to open up this side for those who came in person to the Zoom meeting so that they can ask some questions. And so let me just stop this recording and see if there are any questions.
Hey, Mark, this is Michael here. Thanks. I just recently started using the platform. How often do you have the sessions? Is